Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening to me, AG the Dad. But you obviously know it's Shit Talking Sunday, and you definitely know it's Sensible Chery that we're here to talk to because she's the only one that's going to keep it 100 with us about what in the world is going on in our school systems with our children. Are we losing control? Are we are we not allowed to raise our children? Are we not allowed to uh, direct how we want them to grow up to become? Are we losing the ability to create our own legacies? I don't know. Those are some of the questions that I have. And I'm hoping that throughout the series of podcasts that we have with Sensible Chery, some of those questions are going to be answered. And if you have questions, man, reach out, email me, agthedad at shittalkingsundays.com, and I will ask her, or you could just chime in the chat room. But until then, let's get right down to business and let's get the one, the only, the amazing Sensible Chery on the line. What's up, Sensible Chery? How you doing?
Hello, hello. It's a
Hey,
great Monday, isn't it?
it's always a great Monday when we talk to you because you know our children are our future, and you keep us up to date on how frivolously and crazy uh, life is going for them right now.
Absolutely. Today I'm going to talk about some things that may not directly have to do with schools, but definitely the subject matter with what's going on in our schools.
Yeah.
But first off, I wanted to do a little informational piece about today. I have done my eyes, but I am foundation free. And normally I'd like to be as bold as my lipstick, but I have a dermatology appointment today. The first one I've ever had because my dentist actually said that there's a spot on my lip that he was concerned with and that I should get it checked out. And so I started doing some, just a little digging. When should you start going to see a dermatologist? They said in your 20s, some say as early as 12. So, in line with our kids and with our own personal health, what age or have you even gone to a dermatologist to have spots? Like I have sunspots on my forehead that just popped up this last year that I've never had before. These are these preventative things that if we don't do them, they can end up being life threatening, something that could have easily been taken care of initially. So I'm going to ask you, AG, have you been to the dermatologist yet? You
No,
left me hanging.
no, I'm here. I just couldn't get the button moving. But no, I not dermatologist per se, but I've done some dermatologists for pseudofolliculitis. For those of you who don't know,
I don't know.
black men are prominent to it. It is ingrown hairs on your face.
Hmm.
So yes, I saw a doctor who kind of referred me to a dermatologist, but I never went and got the full blown dermatology stuff. So I haven't done it for cancer screening or anything like that. So um, that's the
Well,
that's
that's
the limit of what I've done.
well, and it'll be interesting because I'm dragging my husband along with this one because he is going kicking and screaming, but he's got a lot of moles and stuff and skin discolorations, and so just to have him checked out. And it's one of those things in this day and age of being preventative for our health. And I think it starts with our kids that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to them as from a young age and making sure that they're understanding how significant their health is, that some of these things that we avoid could definitely help us in the future. But
Yeah.
enough of that. So let's see. I was in a funk the other, like last week. And I come to the realization that whenever I'm in a funk and feel like I'm stuck, I usually pray on it and see what it is that um, has me stuck. And this go round, it was stuff that I need to take care of. As much as I have a passion for our schools and our kids, and I could fight the good fight and for our kids all day long, there are responsibilities that I have for our family, and our own business that I need to take care of. And so I've come to the realization that I was avoiding things that I needed to take care of, a little behind on some book work for business that we have. And so it was one of those things where I needed to address that. And so there's a lot of things that I think that we get into the habit of avoiding. Um, we want to do what we want to do, but there's the idea of responsibility. And even with my son, he wants to do the things that he wants to do, but I keep trying to tell him, I'm like, you have got responsibilities that you have to do. And that comes down to your livelihood. You know, you want to go and have fun, that's great. But in order to have fun, a lot of that has to do with earning a living to be able to afford said fun. Um, and so, this whole idea that there's so many people, I'm to the point where I've been very blessed that I've been able to stay home with our son for the last decade, and will continue to do so. But I'm at the point also where I feel like I'm going to go back into a workforce in some format. I'm not quite sure what that is. I know that I've been doing a lot of interactions with the schools, and I'm definitely in line with seeing what's up with our state and how we are spending funding on our children. And so that is important to me, but there are those things that I have got to do for our family. And so trying to teach my son that, um, you can have your fun, but if you don't take care of your responsibilities, then there's going to be a lot less fun. So how do we instill in our kids that it's important for them to to want to be able to do what they want to do, but they have to take care of the things that they need to take care of. And this whole idea of having a passion for what you want to do, how, so many people seem to be stuck in jobs that they can't stand, that they don't want to do, they don't enjoy. How can we get at our kids at an early age to figure out what their passions are, that they end up in careers doing something that they're truly passionate about and enjoy? You don't have to go through life being miserable. But I think if you just go through life getting to that point where, well, I've got to get a job and just getting a job, and then you get a job, and then you've got bills and you've got to maintain, you don't have the opportunity necessarily to figure out what you're passionate about. Then you're stuck with having those responsibilities and you can't figure it out. So, how can we guide our children to be able to figure out what are you passionate about in school and figure out how to make a career out of that so that it's not misery day to day?
You know,
That on that, AG?
um, I think that just like the older generation than us, they had an easier time maneuvering through life because the educational system. And this is my thought about it. Um, was more workforce friendly education, meaning when you were younger and growing up, they gave you little snippets of what life will have for you in the future, like home economics, sewing, auto shop, wood shop, all those little things that give you a little taste into utilizing your hands along with your brain. And if you're exposed to that earlier, I think it triggers something in your brain to start thinking about the directions that you want to go in life, and even whether or not you want to be higher educated or just manual labor. I think that you might find a passion. Oh, you know what? I like woodworking. I don't
Mhm.
care about this other stuff. I want to build stuff. and help them get a direction so people are more happier in their life. But when they turn 18, graduate from high school, and then it's time to just get into the business, they're like, I don't have a clue. All right, I guess I'll try this. And then they find out that this is definitely not something I want to do.
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
it's hard, and that's the thing. Like so many people, when our kids they have something that they truly enjoy. I was reading something the other day that, and it was like there was a family business, and it's like you expect your kid to go into the family business, but the child was fascinated with like film and stuff like that. And so the layout was is the parent decided, well, I realize that my child has this passion, so why don't I go ahead and give you here's all the books for filmmaking, and do it, be the
Mhm.
best that you can at it. This idea that we have to go down a certain path, or even the push for college versus career. Not everybody is going to go to college. And so, what does it do to our kids if their entire environment is only pushing college and not putting career, just your regular career path that doesn't require a college education, on the same playing field? You're setting kids up. No, and that could go either way. Even if you're just career, and don't expose them to college in an area where they may need some college education.
Mhm.
To do that, you're setting them up feeling like, well, that's the only option I have. Or if they don't feel like they can fall in line with that option, then they're automatically feeling defeated. Well, I'll never. Or their household environment, maybe their parents are telling them that they're, well, we can't afford this, or we'll never be able to do this. And so you start building barriers in our children at a very young age, and we
Mhm.
have to be very careful about that and making sure that they see all the opportunities that they have. There was another thing that I was looking at the other day, and it was talking about, the millennials and this whole participation trophy generation that we have had, that they think they can do anything. And there's some great things to that, they have more courage. But are they taking risks or not? If you assume that everything, you're always going to win, that's not reality. And it goes through this whole pendulum that I keep talking about, where you go from one extreme to the other, telling your kids that you're always going to win. That's not true. And when they get into real life and they realize, oh, wait, there's losing, it's not going to be done for me. I have to put forth the effort. And sometimes, even when I put through the best effort and I'm doing my best, I still fail. Those are hard truths that, if we don't teach them when they're young, uh, adulthood becomes a rude awakening.
Right. Yeah. People have to know. I mean, there's nobody perfect who wins 100% of the time. From a childhood, at least not that I know of. So yeah, I think that we just need to have more trade school type functions. Not everybody is geared for college, and the fact that we push it so hard, man, you set kids up for failure. That that could be the reason they get discouraged and go into bullying, because they're like, look, I already know I can't do this, so I'm just gonna lash out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we build generations of bullies because those misguided individuals become adults who have no guidance, who then have children who have no guidance, and the cycle starts and
Mm-hmm.
continues from there until maybe we, the people, because even the Bible says it takes a village to raise a child. And the fact that we have pushed people out of mind your own business so far into mind your own business that now the village no longer even gives a shit about the kids.
Right. No, I agree. Um, there was something I had seen a long time ago. It was a painting. It's called The Naked Truth. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to read it because it's the image. If anybody can search it up, it's the naked truth. But it's a woman climbing out of a well, and so the story goes: the lie said to the truth, "It's a marvelous day today." The truth looked up to the skies and sighed, for the day was really beautiful. They spent a lot of time together, ultimately arriving beside a well. The lie said to the truth, "The water is very nice. Let's take a bath together." The truth, once again suspicious, tested the water and discovered that it indeed was very nice. They undressed and started bathing. Suddenly, the lie came out of the water, put on the clothes of the truth, and ran away. The furious truth came out of the well and ran everywhere to find the lie and to get her clothes back. The world, seeing the truth naked, turned its gaze away. With contempt and rage, the poor truth returned to the well and disappeared forever, hiding therein its shame. Since then, the lie travels around the world dressed as the truth, satisfying the needs of society, because the world, in any case, harbors no wish at all to meet the naked truth.
Hmm.
And so I read that in respect to a lot of the things that are going on in some of the discussions that we have had when it comes to gender and identity and things along that road. What is truth versus a lie? And, what is your truth versus the truth? And truth is something that can be questioned, and it's not going to change. A lie or deception or, changing intention, that's something that we have an issue with. And in this day and age when we can just choose to change definitions at our whim, that's problematic. And so I know that I will say things that people don't necessarily agree with, but the truth is the truth is the truth. And when it comes to what is going on with gender identity, it's an identity crisis. And there is there are definitely avenues where there can be discussions as to why someone would choose to be a different identity than maybe what's assigned with their gender. And it's not even assignment. It is what it is. Like there's some of these words that are just uh, I can't even go there anymore. The idea of being assigned at birth. You weren't assigned at birth. You were born one way or the other. Period. And so you may choose later on that you disagree with how you were born, but you were born a certain way. And I'm not going to go down a road and say I'm going to judge somebody who decides, "Hey, I was born this way, but I don't agree with it." We have free will. And you look like you want to say something, go for it.
It's we're born our particular genetics. Um, do we have the right to decide that we want to change our our gender? Because we're not changing our genes, we're changing our gender. If you choose to change your gender, that's a choice that you're making. I understand that people say that you're born mentally like that. And just for sake of argument, I don't want to argue that fact that maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it is still a choice that you're making. It's the demons that you have to fight in your own mental, because there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with mental challenges. And I'm not saying by no mean, I hope nobody bashes me for it, that I'm saying that people who want to be transgender or gay or whatever the politically correct word is, that you don't have that right. I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying that you're crazy for having it, but we should take a deeper look at it, because if I decide I want to identify as 17 years old because I don't like being an adult and I want to hang out with little kids, then why can't I make it a law that, all right, I identify as 17? I mean, that's how crazy that is. Why can't I identify as 17? I want to identify as 17.
Right.
So if you can identify that you're a boy or a girl when you're the opposite gender, why can't I identify as a different age? Where does it stop?
Right.
Where does
Well,
me forcing that upon you, saying now you have to accept me as 17 years old and I get to do all the privileges of a 17-year-old that they have because I identify as a 17-year-old? Now, if I force that issue on you, how is that any different than anybody else forcing their gender identity issue on me and my family?
right. No, you have brought up something that has been on my heart a lot lately, and that goes in line. And we may have discussed this before, but the idea that what has formerly been known as your pedophile or people that are sexually attracted to minors, that there's a big push that they be recognized as minor attracted people, and that's their identity. And so, in a day and age where, I like to think of long term consequences and where this could go. And probably 5 years ago, this would never have even crossed my mind. But with where we are at today, like with the idea of putting tampons in boys' bathrooms, which we've discussed before, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I think if you would have asked most people that 5 years ago, every would have been, why? There's no, like, that's not going to even happen. But here we are. And so when it comes to identity, if a minor attracted person who normally you would associate as a pedophile, um, that's their identity, and let's just say they haven't been charged with anything, they openly admit in this age of we do not want to discriminate. That's something that we have learned we shouldn't do, right? You don't discriminate based on sex, you don't discriminate based on race. We're adding all the things, disability, but now we're starting to add things that you have a choice. I don't have a choice on my race. I don't have a choice. Well, now sexuality is a choice, because now we're adding gender identity and sexual orientation in addition to sex. So the reality it is, you do have a choice, but now we're going to the extreme of protecting it. So what does that mean? Does it mean that 5 or 10 years from now, that if you are a minor attracted person who is actually attracted to children, are under a protected class, which is where we are headed in this current administration, when the idea of adding sexual orientation and gender identity in the same level of protection as all the other classes, then at what point are you able to say, as a minor attracted person, I want to work in a school? I've never been charged. It's my identity. I should have that right. You can't discriminate against me because it's a protected class. Is that where we're going to end up? And
You
at
know,
what point is that okay?
yeah, the problem with that, I think, is that if that happens, um, then it'll be a double-edged sword for all those people out there, and rightly so. I think that if you're 40, 50, 60 years old and you're messing with somebody 12, 13 years old, you got a problem, because intellectually they're not at the level you are to be able to interact and give you a quality of life. Yes, if you're only thinking with your genitalia, and that goes on both sides, male or female, because we don't talk about it a lot, but there are women out there who prey on underage children. So when I say it on both senses, that yeah, once you start letting people who identify, if we allow that to be a law or protected, once we start putting pedophiles in the school system, not that we don't already have them in there, because we're finding
Right.
them all the time. They're in basically every walk of life. There has been someone who's a pedophile ish type person.
Mhm.
So I think it still goes back to the key roots of our Constitution of, you know, the separation of church and state. When we start dictating all these rules and laws, um, and I know we want to fine tune them so that they become perfect rules or laws, but unless everybody has an input onto those laws, no law will be successful,
Mhm.
because they're biased to some people other than some of the more common sense things, you know, that are like in the 10 commandments. I shall not kill. That should be an easy thing. If you know, if you live by certain commandments, I guess, if you want to put it uh, in respect, um, people will go through life a little bit easier if we lived like that. Respect your neighbor. You know, um, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife or husband. You know, if we live by some basic principles, all these other laws and regulations would not be necessary.
Right. No, I
But
agree. And when did we get so complicated? I mean, I was looking at some of our policies and stuff, and having to call out every little thing, like sex, race, and all that. Why do we are so far beyond where we were when those things were justified? It's just like not to say that those things don't happen today and that should be called out. But the reality of it is it should be as simple like do not murder, do not discriminate,
and
period.
that's still,
When we start adding all of these layers in, then you're missing something. And now we're getting to a point where by adding special classes in, you are potentially protecting just pure evil. It's just like instead of just don't discriminate, we all get that. It's just like, oh, no, don't discriminate based on this. Oh, and gender identity and sexual orientation. Now you're adding in layers of something that can be up for debate. Sex wasn't up for debate. Race wasn't, well, it should be because anyone who's done, a DNA test, we know that we're
yeah,
multiple
I was going to
races.
say part of the reason why the discrimination had to be fine tuned is because, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like back in the day, all citizens weren't necessarily considered a citizen. So the discrimination had to be fine tuned because of that. And common sense should be common sense. Human is human. If you're a person, you're a person. If you breathe life, you can communicate with me. Why? I mean, the the
So
roots
let's do
of
that.
life,
Don't discriminate against humans.
you
Let's
know,
bring it back to that.
if we got to the main roots of just be good to people, just be good to each other, be kind to each other, and we would go further. But now we've gotten to the point now where we have manipulated ourselves to the point where um, we want to nitpick every single thing because uh, power is intoxicating, and the people who have control like that want to keep it. And that's the problem with dictatorships, kind of like, you know, all these foreign countries that are run by dictators. You see that all those countries, the separation of citizens is so great because the dictator doesn't want to let go of power, and the only way that you can stay in power is by controlling everybody underneath you. And I mean, yeah, it's
You
good to
know,
have someone that can, you know, level out the playing field, so to speak. But if you get the wrong person in, he's going to level it out to this side's advantage or this side's advantage. And that's the problem. We can never find somebody who is actually out to make all citizens great. You know, when they
right.
just like the slogan, let's make America great again. America has always been a great nation, What we need to
Mhm.
do is make being nice to each other great again,
Mhm.
because there is no race on this planet that's better than any other race. There might be certain people in each race that are better than each other, but we have to start looking at each other as equals to a certain extent. I mean, we all know
Well,
that intellectually we're not all equal, but that
right,
doesn't mean that I don't have a greater skill than somebody else at something else.
right. Well,
So,
and when you talk about equality, I question why there are not women up in arms, because women had to fight for a long while to be equal members of society. And to say this bluntly, now we have men who can claim to be women expecting to have the same exact rights as women without being an actual woman. And so that kind of baffles me in respect to, all the people that were fighting for equal rights. You are now diminishing the rights of women by putting another level of a person in the woman category. Before, it was men and women. Now it's men and women and men who want to be women. So when we go down the road of, those um, people that had been discriminated against or oppressed, men, for the most part, really haven't fallen in that category. Uh, Men in and of themselves as a whole. Men, race has, if you are a man of a certain race, that kind of thing. And I'm sure that can be different depending on where you are in the world. But women have been oppressed. And so, how is it that we, with Title IX and all these other things, we are not thinking of the impact of how this truly will impact women when men can just choose to be women. And so at one point it was like, well, women should be have equal pay and equal this compared to men. Now you have men who can be women who are expecting the equal pay to women and men, but they were already men. So I'm so confused.
that's part of the reason I say, if you look, it's just like Halloween. On Halloween, everybody dresses up that wants to participate and walk around, and we're supposed to accept them as little goblins and demons on that day. Okay, that day, if you want to go around, you'll be accepted. Any other day, I'm not saying that we shouldn't accept you as you are, but I am saying that I shouldn't have to be forced to have the same views as you. If I was a female and I was in the bathroom using the bathroom, and a guy that identifies as a woman decides that he wants to come into the bathroom and use the bathroom, I have to be okay with that. I'm not okay with that because I have daughters. And if what stops a man or a woman, depending on what bathroom we're discussing, from saying, you know what, today I want to identify as a woman, and I'm going to go into all women's bathrooms today, and that's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to piss and shit in all the women's bathrooms just because I have that right. Now I have the right because I'm walking out the bathroom saying I identify as a girl, so I'm going to use all the girls' bathrooms. But my ulterior motive is I just want to watch women be in um, compromising positions, trying to straighten themselves out before they walk back out of the bathroom. Um, so where does my rights or your rights as a person get infringed upon? You know, that's why having gender neutral bathrooms was, if you're going to do it like that, more appropriate, and labeling them family restrooms. But then also, here's the other problem that comes up with that, because we're all were kids at one point, and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, shit, probably all the way up to whatever, have weird fetishes of, hey girl, or hey boy, let's or my man or whatever, let's go in the bathroom and mess around, because now we're giving them family friendly bathrooms where you can lock the door and people of opposite sex can walk into a bathroom and have their fun and then come out in a public area and not get caught. So where does, I mean, where by, it's almost like we are providing cover for things like this to happen.
Right.
Just like you're making it easier for pedophiles to walk down the mall, find a little chick or a dude, if that's what they're looking for, and say, hey, I'll give you a couple dollars. Let's go in this bathroom together. And you know, kids are impressionable, especially if you're sitting down, you're just having a conversation with them before you know it. And you want some ice cream, little boy or little girl? Now look. So those family friendly bathrooms, I mean, there's nobody wants to talk about the what if.
Right,
You know?
right. And that we need to. And that's the thing, the idea that we are saying that, children can choose their identities, at 3 and 4 years old. There are guidelines and there are barriers and there are roadmaps, and we should have them. And they are norms. Not to say that there aren't things that go outside of the norm, but there are norms, and we should be teaching norms, acceptance and norms. And it's all starting to get blurred now, that instead of, teaching norms, well, we don't want to teach, the, well, I don't know, perceived regular norm as gospel, because there are exceptions to that rule. And so now we're going into, well, we need to teach about the exceptions to the rule. And it's just like, no, because when you start teaching the exceptions as normal, then you can cause confusion. And so, our children should not be going into something more than, okay, we've got girls and boys. And I truly believe that if there is a child who falls outside of that norm, it is not going to be a temporary thing. And I think that would lay true into what anybody in that community would say, that's like, well, this was who I was from birth. There are so much of that it's not just the individual or the parents or society. There's a lot that goes into that. Whereas, like you said, children are so impressionable. And so if you have parents that don't give them any guidelines, you can be anything you want. Like, we went from the whole idea of teaching our children that you could be anything, you can succeed and all this kind of stuff, into, well, you can just be anything you want, boy, girl, it doesn't matter. We've even got, it's just like we've got kids running around talking about being furries. That's actively going on. They're dressing up as animals in school. And it's just like, where does it end? And when are we going to start putting boundaries in place? And it's just like, if this is what you want to do, then
In our school system. You're not coming to school dressed up as a little fucking dog, excuse my language, and disrupting class. No.
Right.
Okay. You
Well,
want to
and
be
that's
a fur
it, distraction.
baby? Yeah. If you want to be a fur baby, that's what you do. You do that after school, after work. You're not coming into the workplace. I'm a fur baby. Roof, roof. How can I help you today? No. No.
Right.
Okay. If I was a store owner and my employee walked in today, unless I owned a pet shop, if you came into my office and said, "All right, today I'm Roof Roof the dog," and I would look at you like, "Well, go home, go pee outside, sit outside, go." That would be me. I'd be like, "No. A matter of fact, you're fired," because there's no way that should be legal. There's no way that I should be forced to look at another human that's dressed up like a furry animal or a vegetable or an a transformer or whatever, and say, and I'm supposed to accept that. Oh, are we a transformer today? My bad. How are we doing? Are the Decepticons out today? No, I'm not
Right.
playing your game. You want to play your game on your own time, but don't force these rules and laws on me. If you want to be
Right.
a guy today and a girl tomorrow, hey man, whatever floats your boat. But I have to draw the line when you start forcing those ideas on me and my family.
Right.
I guess at some point, you know what, maybe it's official. I'm taking a stand. I'm not bashing anybody by no means, because I'm not homophobic. I'm just not homosexual. And I'm going to tell you that I look at it from the standpoint of, look, everybody has rights. We're all human. All humans. You know, when they say Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, all this, no, all lives matter. I get it. But right now, minority lives are under attack. Okay. Yes, people who are homosexual, yes, you guys have always been under attack, but this is a choice that you are making to be that. People who are minorities didn't have a choice to be a minority. We were born minority, and being treated unfairly, the discrimination isn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Although it is kind of similar, it's not the same. It's way deeper than that. Being gay, you weren't enslaved and made and beat and in prison because you were gay. You're being assaulted because of a choice that you make. I'm not saying it's right that you're being assaulted, by no means, because I'm very much against anybody being beat up or bullied. But if you're going to force your views upon me, nah, man, I draw the line, because um, you have parents that are maybe a little looser in their views. And when they see that their child maybe be acting out because they want to be feminine-ish as a man, um, hey, maybe you don't want to encourage it, but maybe just kind of let it develop itself. But if you're going, oh, I see that you seem like you're a girl. Do we need to go shopping and buy you dresses?
Right.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Right.
well, let me buy you dresses. It would be different if the kid is asking, hey, mom, hey, dad, can I get some dresses? Then maybe let's have a conversation before we get into this. But to just be, I'm all with it. I mean, if we have kids in the room that are listening to this, you might want to cover their ears right now. But my question is, if when your child comes up to you and says, hey, I feel like I want to be, as a boy, I want to be gay. Um, and they're 10, 11, 12, and they come to you and they want to, I mean, should a question be, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, I guess I will respect what you want to do. But so let's just go further than the fact that you find people of the same sex as you attractive. Um, so what sexual positions are you interested in? I mean, to be blunt, are you going to give him oral sex, or are you going to give him anal sex, or is he going to give you oral sex, or is he going to give you anal sex? And at that age, I don't even think they even thought that far into it, like, oh my God, sex. So is there a difference between I love my friend because he's my friend,
Right.
or I love my friend because I want to sleep with my friend, and because I say, "I man, I love my friend." Oh, are you gay? I guess I am. If I say I'm loving my friend, I'm not sexually attracted to my friend, but I have so much love for my friend that that's my best friend, and that's being confused and guided for people to be like, for kids to be like, oh, well, so now my parents say, since I say I love you as my friend, I guess I should be wanting to kiss and make out with you. And then you see these kids that grow up and go, that was a phase I was in.
Right.
Because they
Well,
were
yeah.
into that. They weren't technically or
Right.
necessarily I'm gay, but I was immersed into the life. So I did it for a while. And maybe because we talked about the suicide rate, maybe some of that is after they realize, what the hell did I just do? I can't live with the fact that I just as a guy sucked on somebody's penis, or as a girl ate somebody's vagina, and it messed with your mental. So now they kill themselves.
Yeah.
We got to quit. Kids are too impressionable at such a young age that you can't allow things like that to be going on in the school system, because they are trying to be educated, they're trying to develop, they're trying to learn. So like you say, kids are a sponge, they're soaking up everything that they can. And if we teach them that this is right, I'm not saying okay or not okay, but if we're preaching that this is the right way, then there
Right.
will be some that are going to go, yes, this is the right way, so I'm going to go that way. And when they
Right.
get older and realize, no, what the hell, I was brainwashed. Just like those what do you call them, those cults. People go
Mm.
into cults and then they realize, oh my god, what was I thinking?
Right.
And in some cases it's
Right.
too, look at the people who drank the Kool-Aid,
Well,
killed
and that's the
everybody.
thing, like with social media in this day and age, and it's like you're constantly being bombarded with things. And you can't say that that outside exposure doesn't impact people. When we were knee deep in the pandemic, and my son and I, so we started watching like shows together on Netflix, just cartoons where I'd watch with him. And there was a couple of them. They seemed all great. They were a Y7, Youth 7. And they were, they get you involved like the first episode. And by episode 2, they have these cartoon characters, same sex kissing. And why do we have that at Y7? Like, this isn't, we shouldn't have any sex like going into that detail into a cartoon. And I think that's the argument. Well, nobody complains when you have heterosexuals that are on, kissing, or parents and stuff. And it's like, what they see in their home life is totally different, but we do not need to expose them to any sexual thing like that in elementary school. If
Absolutely.
you do not even have the if you do not legally have the right to consent to sex, and it's considered rape if you whether you consent or not at certain ages, then why are we teaching them this sexuality at these young ages?
um Man, that's such a touchy subject for me. um I think back when I was growing up, the birds and the bees talk was basic,
Mhm.
and that's all it should have been. There
Mhm.
should be, I mean, we do need to educate acceptance,
Yes.
but and tolerance, but not uh, when you're pushing an agenda, that's when there's a problem.
Mhm.
Just like these kids books, there's so many kids books that hide um underlying discrimination kind of stuff. Like I was watching this cartoon. They had this guy, he had a K on his shirt. This cartoon, okay? I forgot what it's called. And this other cartoon character said, "You're a knitter. You're a knitter. Oh my God, you're a knitter. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't want to be a knitter. I don't want to be a knitter."
Mhm.
And we all know what they're trying to say.
Mhm.
And then when it showed up, goes, yes, I'm a knitter. And they start showing them knitting. But we
Mhm.
know what they were subliminally trying to say. Knitters are bad, you know? And I'm like, why are these kind of things in children's books?
Right.
Why are these in cartoons?
Right.
Uh, this is not appropriate, but you know, and I'm gonna keep saying it until we get these lifers out of office who have no clue about how life should be going. We're not going to see change, because you
Right.
got people that were elected in the 60s and 70s, and 80s early. that are still making laws and regulations for people who were born in the 2000s and a whole new millennia that
Yeah.
and time has changed. Some of these people that are older have no clue about how technology really even works. So for them to
Right.
be trying to write rules to be enforced by people who are living in a whole different era is
Right.
is crazy.
Right.
Yes, and I get, we're evolving. That's why all these other laws are coming into place. But at the end of the day, man, quit forcing your agendas upon me because it's gonna make things bad for people eventually,
Right.
because they're gonna get tired of it. Um, our
We need to
kids,
get back to basics.
yes, like we've been saying, we need trade schools back in, trade education back in the school system, so
Mhm.
that when kids get out of school, they're not bored because they're uneducated and unskilled and unprepared for life. I thought that part of the school system was to kind of prepare our children for everyday life. If
Right.
if it's mandatory for them to go to school, then I feel it's mandatory that when they graduate, they've learned some. This No Kid Left Behind act that they had, that's not holding teachers accountable. Not that I'm bashing teachers, but we've put so many rules and regulations and handicapped our teachers so much that they can't educate properly because the kids are doing whatever they want. I'm not saying that we should bring corporal punishment back into the school system where the principals have the right to beat that ass, but I am saying that
Accountability. We
you
can
know
have accountability.
yes, we need definite accountability and we need honest accountability. Part of the way that we can fix all this, spend more money on cameras. The
Mm.
cameras don't lie. Um, you know, Police officers, a lot of them like the camera and some of them don't. And
Mhm.
if you're not doing anything wrong, cameras should be everywhere except in private areas that would expose you to indecent exposure, in
Right.
bathrooms. I don't necessarily agree, but it seems like in some of these countries where there's more cameras than people, there's a lot less crime because when you
Mm.
know you're going to get caught and we hold people accountable, people tend not to want to mess up.
Right.
Because if you had cameras in a class and everything that was recorded that a teacher does to a student or a student tries to do to a teacher, there's some real good accountability, and I bet you, there would be a little bit more uh, discipline in school, because if we held all the bad kids accountable and the parents didn't want to make sure that they corrected the problem of their child acting a fool at school, then we move them to a school where we put all those and we take all their rights, so not all, but we take a lot of their privileges away and say, look, you have been brought here because you couldn't act right.
Right.
Now you're here. The only problem with that is then it leaves room for, all right, well, this school needs funding, so we're going to put people in here just like we do the prison system.
Right.
There's a lot of people in the prison system that were unjustly accused and convicted. So, and we know, but cameras everywhere will show a little bit more defined um, endings to,
Right.
whether or not somebody really committed these crimes or not.
Right.
I don't know this.
Well, I know, and then you start walking on that touchy subject of government overreach,
Big
which
brother. Yep.
they already have. I mean, it's like you talk about all the people that are sitting there. Wow, I was just having that conversation, then all of a sudden I'm getting all these ads, for such and
Mhm.
such.
Yep.
It's just like you don't. It's like the idea, like even on your phone, if you look at it, and it's just the cameras on both sides. Um, you know darn well that as much as you think it's only live when you want it to be live, it works when it works.
Yeah.
And
We
that's that's going under the thought process that whoever is behind that isn't going to abuse it.
Right. Right. That's the problem. That movie, Don't Look Up. We have so many
That one,
satellites in the sky that they can see your face, and now we have facial
oh yeah,
recognition. So, I mean,
right.
we're pretty much in major metropolises. There is no place to hide. Just like in
Right.
Las Vegas, almost every nook and cranny of every casino is covered. There's very few
Yeah.
blind spots unless it's in an area that is not protecting somebody's money. So
Right.
I don't know. This whole big thing about gender and equality and equal rights is such a big thing that can be um, if we're talking about it, it can go either way.
Right.
Control is based on it's a matter of interpretation.
It needs to be a bigger discussion. That's the thing. We need to be able to come to the table with multiple sides and actually have a discussion. And it can't be a screaming match. And, it has to be people that are willing to discuss their own personal views and biases and be willing at the same time to listen to someone else's and figure out where is the compromise where you are not forcing and overstepping your rights by impacting mine. And that goes
Absolutely.
both ways.
Absolutely. And that's actually a good uh, way to end this
Yeah.
podcast. Um, I say it every time on this podcast: be nice to each other. You will
Hmm.
see that paying it forward without expecting anything in return will give you greater joy. For you to sit here, hold the camera up, a selfie like this next to a guy that you're giving, a homeless person that you're giving aid to for your own Facebook likes, that isn't wholehearted. You don't have to be recognized for helping somebody. Sometimes moving silent is better because your heart will feel it. You'll have that flutter in your heart knowing, man, I helped somebody. I'm not saying that every homeless person on the street needs to be helped because not every homeless person on the street wants to be helped. Some of them choose to be there because that's the lifestyle that they are okay with and they want to be in because it could be a cool lifestyle if you have the right situation. I mean, people go camping all the time and like living that off the grid kind of life. So, like I said, not everybody wants to be helped. But if you help each other wholeheartedly, I think one person at a time, the world will change.
I agree.
Sensible Chery, I want to thank you for being here, taking your time out this busy schedule that you have because I already know how your schedule is. So to be able to lock you in on a Monday, every Monday at 9 o'clock, I really, really appreciate it. The world will appreciate you down the line. We're creating legacy for our children. When they grow up, they can listen to their parents and know our stance and our views on certain things. So
Hmm.
with that being said, everybody, I'm AG the Dad. That lady over there is Sensible Chery. This is Shit Talking with Sensible Chery. If you haven't liked, share, subscribed, or hit that notification button, you know what? You're bad. You're missing out on a whole bunch of things. And protect your rights, protect your children's rights. If you don't, a closed mouth will never get fed. And I guarantee you, your rights will be trampled. So until next week, love each other, keep positive people around you, and make positive decisions in your life because you never know. Your next step might be your best step. I'm out. Peace.